Hey everyone, welcome to another video. So today I'm actually going to be doing my first patch rundowns. What I'm actually going to do is go over this patch 10.4 notes. I haven't done this before. If this is something that you like, just let me know. If it's something you don't like or you think it's a waste of my time, just let me know as well and I'll cop it on the chin and I won't do it again. Alright, so yeah, what we're going to do is just go through and the way I want to frame this is two overarching themes. One, how is this going to change your behavior in solo queue and what you're going to see in your own games, but then also trying to tie it back to mid lane as much as possible. So first of all, what do we see? We see that they're trying to break top Sona and Soraka, which I'm very happy about given those champions are kind of ruining the game at the moment. And especially for a mid laner when you're trying to gank top and this Soraka top with barrier, and he's just so hard to kill due to his healing. I think it's quite annoying. And it looks like they're trying to expand the jungle champion pool for new and veteran players. And then nerfing Aphelios a little bit here. So diving straight in, what do I see? So I'm really excited to see what these potential Dyna changes are. Considering it's a buff, it makes me a little concerned because he's already quite strong. I'm also excited about Lux to see what they do to Lux because I love Lux. I think it's already a pretty strong champion and a good champion for lower elo climbing. Silas, I think Silas definitely needs a buff, so it'll be interesting to see what that is. And then we've got Talon Zed here. Jayce is an interesting one because Jayce is always a type of champion due to his kit. His kit is so strong, and it's similar to Silas. Because Silas and Jayce have such good kits, when they're tinkered a little bit, for me that says something like, oh, okay, this champion could be on the fringe of being from average to just OP. So generally with these types of champions, you've got to be very, very careful with the way you change them and really take note of these champions with good kits to see because it actually can make them OP. And I'm a big fan of Jayce mid. I think Jayce mid is something that it was a niche pick for me that I love to counter a lot of these low range champions. And also it was my counter pick to like Kassadin back in the day. So, you know, if Jayce mid gets a buff, I might actually pick up Jayce again. And nerf Sol, I'm a little not okay with that given Sol's not the most strong champion still. And I think nerfing him is just a bit unfair. And then Aphelios nerf, thank God, because we just see Aphelios MF like every game, and then Sona Soraka and then Singed. I don't know why they're banning Singed, nerfing Singed. And then these skins, man, why do they keep releasing skins like for Tryndamere, Katarina, and Yi? Like you look at champs like I mean, like when is the last time like a Xerath or I guess Orianna and all these champions like mid majors get skins? They never do. It's always these like noob stompy champions that get skins. And like, obviously you can see what Riot's trying to do, but they're not even good skins anyway, and it just kind of annoys me. Anyway, getting straight into it, Amumu. So I'll actually give a little context to Amumu. So generally, champions are strong in solo queue when they either fit one of these two, I guess, overarching categories. One, they're an early pressure jungler that, you know, has pretty good ganks. They control river early, can invade the enemy jungler early. They win 1v1 against the enemy jungler. And they're really good for kind of increasing the pace of the game and complementing strong early lanes. Or they're a champion that has really good efficiency in the jungle. Their jungle clear speed is really strong, and then they can scale into mid to late game either with insane damage or insane utility. So an example with that is someone like Sejuani. So Sejuani is a champion that can scale into mid game really, really well. If you don't punish her, same as like Karthus, same as Zac, champions like that. Conversely, you've got champions like Elise, Lee Sin, Jarvan, etc. Rek'Sai, that is those early pressure junglers that can control river, invade early, gank, etc. So Amumu doesn't really fit into either. If you just try and farm on Amumu and scale into mid game, you're not really going to have that much of an effect because farming is not like you're sacrificing when you farm and power farm on a jungler. You got to understand that you're sacrificing all the lost potential of playing a champion that could have just impacted lanes. And with the Amumu, because his kit is so underwhelming in mid game, it doesn't really. It's the trade-off's not there. The trade-off's not enough. So, and what do we see? If Amumu were to be viable, I would need to see changes in his W and his E that would make his early skirmishing stronger and potentially make his clear time even faster. But this Q dash speed, yes, it's a good quality of life buff, but again, tying it back to those things, it's not really going to help him put him back into the meta. And yes, this R cooldown as well was quite nice because he's a very ultimate based champion, but again, I don't think you're going to see Amumu in your solo queue games, and I don't think, unless they change the W or E, it's going to change too much about his viability in high elo and in competitive. So this is a really good change here for Aphelios. I think that it was really annoying. So because it says here, players can now see both of Aphelios' guns. I think that's a really nice quality of life change because when you were versing Aphelios, you had no idea what guns he was actually holding, especially on his offhand, which was annoying. Calibrum no longer resets basic attack timer after consuming a mark. Crescendum sentries die faster, which I think is actually really good because those turrets were really annoying. And R range decrease, which is also quite good. I think Aphelios right now is very strong. And I think I want to see more diversity in the game. Right, I want to see more diversity in the game. I don't know about you guys in your solo queue matches, but all I see is Aphelios, MF, and Senna. Basically, I think that Aphelios needs to definitely get tuned down a little bit. Now, this is going to allow us to, I guess, play a little bit more around Aphelios. Personally, I've never played the champion, so I don't know the details about this champion specifically. All I know is that I really didn't want to verse him when he had that. You know, when he has that what's the offhand gun where it just heals him? Like, I hate versing when he has that one. But then, yeah, I think this range on the R was pretty ridiculous. So I think that's a very, very nice change. But this isn't really going to change mid lane all too much here. I can't really comment too much on this specific change. So Asol. W active star damage decreased. Like Sailor Star Maker during the time of Sailor Moon Stars, Aurelion Sol's Star Gentle Creator is a little weak. So, I mean, I'm not too happy with this, honestly. I feel sorry for Aurelion Sol. I think he's a very misunderstood champion, and I actually think he's a very strong champion. People just don't really want to play him awful much. I don't know why. Generally, you find him as someone who either one person one-tricks him or they don't play him at all. Like, I actually have not played Asol pretty much at all, and he just hasn't been someone who's interested me because I've kind of come from the competitive landscape. I think this change is just annoying to see. I think Asol wasn't OP at all. I didn't even think he was overly strong. But maybe they're doing this because they're seeing the people who do play him have too much success. Because it is one of those champions, if you do one trick, there's a lot of players who just one trick him and actually get to high elo. And then once they get to high elo and they change their champion pool, they go all the way back to diamond. So I actually had someone who I coached was an Aurelion Sol player, got to challenger and then switched to other champions and then played other champions at like a D4 level. So maybe that's what they're trying to prevent. I'm not too sure here. Caitlyn, bonus attack speed at level 1. Actually, one last thing, talking about Aurelion Sol. Aurelion Sol is similar to Diana in the sense that, actually, it's actually quite a strong blind pick. Like, Aurelion Sol can actually influence every single game, even if he gets counterpicked, because his early game is so strong. So if you are interested in some sort of a niche blind pick where you can just take over the game in the early game and roam a lot, and the Asol's a champion for you. So Caitlyn, bonus attack speed at level 1 increase, maybe because Caitlyn's been nerfed quite a bit in the past and they want to see Caitlyn come back in the meta. Caitlyn is generally, again, similar to Jayce. Whenever Caitlyn gets touched or tinkered a little bit, because Caitlyn is such a high range, he's got such an awesome kit as well. Think about it. He's got a high range. He's got a form of self-peel. So any AD carry that has self-peel is really good. So that's like Lucian, Ezreal, Caitlyn. They're always in and out of the meta. Insane range, a really good lane bully. And you got to be careful with these champions that have high range, because if you give them too much strength combined with their ability to self-peel and between the W and the E, and then also the range, you got to be a little bit careful. So generally, this is something I'd like to keep my eye on. Caitlyn is always in and out of the meta. Generally, when you see these little changes over time, they build up to make Caitlyn very, very strong, and then they need to nerf it again. So this is another one of those champions I try to keep an eye on. Garen, increased Q empowered basic attack damage ratio, increased W resistances after max from enemy kills, W shield increase. At max resistances from enemy kills, Garen increases his bonus armor and magic by 10%. Shield 0.1% max health to 70 to 170 with 0.2% bonus health. So I always thought that Garen is actually underrated. Garen is actually a pretty strong champion. People still like have these connotations with Garen, is that just because he's like this noob champion that's been around and been weak for so long, people just don't really know how to play him nor build him. He is a bit of an awkward champion to build, given that you kind of have to build damage, and he's a pretty much no gap closer, low range melee champion. So having a champion like that, and when they have to build damage, can be a little bit sketchy. So I can kind of see where they're coming from, maybe trying to make him a little bit more attractive to people to pick him up. But I think this is a really good This is, I mean, I don't know how much this will change Garen, his Q, but I think this is going to be really, really good because Garen at the moment generally doesn't have to, generally doesn't build many defensive items. They actually end up going like a very squishy build. They end up going like Triforce IE, or I've seen like Triforce, a lot of like very glass cannon builds because he has so much natural tankiness. So this is just only going to complement that, and I think this is interesting. This will definitely make Garen a lot stronger, and especially in the lower elos. Garen is a bit of a menace if you know how to build him correctly. Nah, base MS increase, passive mini Nah MS decrease, R ratios. So Nah is very much, again, I'm going to say this a lot, but Nah as well is a champion that has an insane champion kit. And again, when he's tinkered a little bit here and there, he can go from being an average champion to completely overwhelming, especially within competitive. Not as much in solo queue because I guess, I mean, it's harder to coordinate with your Mega Gnar and things like that, but in competitive, they got to be very careful with Gnar because his kit is already so good, and a lot of pro players are very, very good at playing Gnar, so they've got to be careful about what they do to Gnar. Base MS increase, I'm assuming that's really not going to do anything 10 MS. I mean, it could be helpful to help hit your Qs in lane, but it's not going to be too much. But it says here, similar to Garen, we have a jungle Gnar specific change which you could find in the jungle champion section, but generally we're looking to power him up a little bit, specifically when he's Mega Gnar, since he's feeling a bit underwhelming. Even has a huge, even I think they meant to say even as a huge honking monster. I think they misspelled that there, but I think so. They're trying to make him a little bit better when he's in Mega Gnar, I'm assuming. So here, bonus movement speed, damage ratio. This is really good for Gnar. 0.2 attack damage ratio to 0.5. That's actually really nice. The AP one won't really change much since you don't build any AP anyway. But this this is gonna be, that's quite good for his burst when he turns into Mega Gnar. I like that. I don't know if that's going to change. It's not going to change whether or not he's viable, because at the moment the problem with Gnar is that he doesn't have many good matchups. I think he's just too threatened by a lot of matchups. Like, I think Aurelia is just super good into him. Even like Ryze is really good. There's just so many top champs that just destroy him, and he can't really punish champions like Mordekaiser enough. So I'll keep an eye on him, but again, I don't think this is going to make the difference between Gnar being meta or not. So yeah, Jayce, this is the interesting one. Base mana and mana growth increase, Q base damage increase. So Jayce should now be able to cast more abilities to fend off his moves. So this is really big. This is massive. So people a lot of the time don't put emphasis on mana and mana growth. You shouldn't be looking at mana and mana growth in isolation. The way I like to look at mana and mana growth is I always like to look at it as like, how often does this champion want to spam abilities? On a champion like, when you see this type of buff on a champion, say, you know, maybe a champion like Syndra, this would be massive because you can just continually spam abilities. And it's the same as Jayce. He wants to spam abilities in lane. He wants to spam his Q or his EQ. He wants to switch to hammer form, then jump onto you. He wants to be putting on the pressure. And given that he's a very early skirmishing of very early game oriented champion, mana, base mana and mana growth are super, super helpful. And given that you don't really want to be building mana on this champion outside, like, yes, you can build mana immune, but you know, it's just not really optimal. You generally want to be building either lethality or some form of, like, you know, Yomu's or Black Cleaver or whatever it is. I just don't feel like this is I mean, I feel like this is really, really good for Jayce. So, and now that combined with base damage, level 1 increase here. This is the hammer form, but 45 to 55, 80 to 95, 135. So this is quite nice. It may seem small, but this is quite nice. Combined with the mana, you're going to feel a lot more. And the reason this is good is because this mana change is going to allow Jayce to get more poke, which then is going to allow him to be in his hammer form more, like trading more aggressively. So this is just going to complement that as well. This is actually potentially will actually help bring Jayce back into the meta quite a bit, and actually will help him in mid lane. I might have to experiment with Jayce mid. It's a champion that I personally like as a good. It's actually quite good into a lot of low range matchups. It can be really good into as a counter pick to like Kassadin and things like that as well. So This will be interesting. Here we go. Here's my baby Lux. So we got Q damage increase, cooldown decrease early. Lux can now flash while casting. Oh, that's nice. I'm really happy with that. So they're saying buffing support Lux to give the option. So the reason that they're saying this is a support buff is because obviously the bind is a massive part of support Lux. But I'm looking at it from more of a mid lane standpoint. I think that Lux mid is something that is quite underrated and it has a lot of decent matchups and can minimize a lot of matchups. Yes, you're not going to be getting a lot of pressure in some matchups, but it is, that's just my opinion. I think Lux is a good champion, especially in low elo, like I've done that recent video on Lux. So looking here, base damage increase, level, what's weird? So level 3, it doesn't change at all. So generally you want to be maxing E. So the main thing you want to be looking at is level 1, level 2, level 1, level 2. I mean, the damage increase is not going to be changing that much because the Q isn't an ability where you're going to be spamming too much. It's generally a self-peel ability. And then they've also decreased the damage ratio, but they've decreased the cooldown. Now, this is actually quite big. Level 1, it's 2 seconds. So level 1 is massive. Now, so since you max E, you're going to have maybe one or max 2 points into it. This is really, really big. 11 to 10.5 seconds. Or 13 to 11 at level 1. So the way I view this is, now Lux has a really reliable form of self-peel every 11 seconds rather than every 13 seconds. And this can actually be the difference and can actually help you in those early to mid-game skirmishes where you just want to land a bind around a dragon fight or things like that. This is actually a really nice quality of life buff for Lux. It will help support, but I view it in the sense of mid lane. It can definitely help mid lane a lot as well. Lux can now flash while casting Final Spark. That is also good. So I'm assuming that will mean you can change the location of the R, so you can R flash, I'm assuming, or something like that. If that's the case, similar to like Ezreal, R, but no, this is just a good quality of life buff as well, because sometimes a lot of the time, or sometimes you'll get jumped on when you're using ult, but more importantly, this will help you to reposition your ultimate as well, and do some flashy stuff, or get in range if someone's just out of range. Rammus. Base attack speed and attack speed ratio increase. Okay. This doesn't do anything, man. Like, I think Rammus, again, is like Amumu. He needs to be one or the other. I think Rammus, in order for Rammus to be viable again, I think Rammus needs to have a change or like a big buff to the W or E. Again, to make his earlier skirmishing stronger, and then also, I guess, his pathing a little bit more efficient. I think that's a pretty big, they're the main problems with Rammus, so that's not going to change much. Singe, base health and armor decrease. Singe was pumped up on his plant-based potion before it was cool. While his healthy libations have been letting him conquer the top lane, we're going to make his triumphs a bit more risky by reducing it. This is pretty ridiculous, honestly. Like, this is massive. Like, base armor level 1 for Singe. Like, he already got punished by so many matchups. Like, this means he's just going to get absolutely destroyed by so many more matchups. Like, I don't like this change. Singe was already weak. I have no idea why they're doing this to Singe. Bad move, right? Okay, so now, let's actually see how they nerf Sona. So, auras now grant Sona mana at... Okay. So, auras now grant Sona mana at first ally tag, Q, W, and E crossed. So, basically what they've done now is that in order to spam your abilities, you need to tag your ally with the aura. So, we're saying here, look, Sona now gains mana the first time she tags an ally with the aura. So, then they've increased the cost. This is actually a really smart change. I actually like the way they've done this. This also means that yeah, you can't play it in solo lane anymore because you're going to need someone near you to be able to have enough mana to spam your abilities, which is going to make you very vulnerable. So I like this change. It's nice. Soraka, base stats adjusted. Q self heal, rejuvenation, heal duration, and bonus movement speed decrease. I think that's actually really good. Bonus movement speed decrease. That was really annoying. Q cross increase. W health cost decrease while rejuvenated heal increase later. So base health increase. So what they've done here, I'm assuming, is fix a little bit of these base stats because they've nerfed a lot of her abilities. But here, Q self heal has gone down quite significantly, and the ratio has gone down at a base level. And oh, look at that, level 5, it's gone down a shit ton. This is a big change to Soraka. This is going to make her a lot more vulnerable. But the heal duration is 2.5 seconds. Cost is gone up as well. Movement speed. This is movement speed is going to make her way more vulnerable as well. So basically, this is just going to make her a lot more vulnerable, a lot harder to sustain in lane. This is actually not even. This is this is not just going to hurt top Soraka. This is actually going to hurt support Soraka, unfortunately. And then W, me after a massage and ice cream. While Soraka is rejuvenated, the 10% maximum health cost for casting will be reduced by. Okay, so they're trying to make her a little bit more healthy through her W, which is smart because this Q nerf was really big. Because a lot of the time you would heal your teammates with your W and then lose a bit of HP, but then get it back with Q. But since they've nerfed the Q, they need to fix it up a little bit here. And they've gave it a little bit. So they made her more emphasize on healing teammates rather than yourself. That's just smart. So now, Silas. Silas has been doing well after our large changes in 10.1. We're less worried about him taking over pro game, so we can give him some more power. Base damage increased. So since you max Q, level 1, it doesn't change. Level 2, you want to be looking at around level 3. It's only 10 damage difference. Level 4, 15. I mean, this really doesn't change much. So the problems with Silas, my opinion with Silas, so what hurt Silas the most was when they removed the shield. They removed two things. They removed the passive damage on the minion, so your wave clear is way less, and they also removed the shield when you got the E, on your E. So the problem I find with Silas is that he doesn't really fill either identity. He can't really push and move effectively, because if he tries to sacrifice his HP for the wave, it takes so long to clear the wave that he's not really going to have enough time to roam, or he's going to be so low that he can't roam. And if he plays to all-in the enemy, it just feels like he doesn't do enough damage to make his all-in threatening enough. So I feel like Silas is in this really... He's like a Fizz that doesn't have the all-in threat, and he's like a Kiana who doesn't have the roam threat. He just doesn't have the ability to shove and move, or even set up kills in a long lane. Like, yes, he can set up kills in a long lane theoretically. I just feel like getting to that point, you're just going to be so chunked anyway. And your E is so unreliable to hit, so his only gap close is so unreliable to hit anyway. So I don't think that Silas... He needs to change to his E or his passive. That's what I think is going to change him. Which is unfortunate. I love Silas. And the thing with Silas, his kit is so good, so they got to be very careful with the way they change Silas. Udyr, time between stance. Screw Udyr. He's a trash champion. I'm not even going to talk about him. Sorry, Rippy. Alright, jungle champions. Alright, so one trend we've seen over the years is that new and low MMR players pick jungle at a much lower rate than other positions, even when it's stronger than those other positions. So basically, they're trying to increase the amount of champions they can play in the jungle. So we've got Darius here. Now heal. That's actually pretty interesting. Now heals from large munches. That's pretty interesting. Passive. So this is interesting because Diana already was a strong champion and could have been played jungle. So this is going to actually make Diana a potential flex even in high elo or in potentially competitive. And it already was played in LCK, I believe, in jungle. So this is really good. Garen, I just don't see Garen jungle working. I think maybe this is going to help him clear quite well because it is his E, and that's what you would generally want. Because AoE can help you clear Raptors quite well. W, oh man, I couldn't think of anything worse about Nah jungle, honestly. Mordekaiser jungle. Mordekaiser jungle is interesting because again, any champion that you think that is already kind of strong and that could be a potential flex, it's just something you got to be careful of. Like, they don't want to make these champions too strong in too many roles because Mordekaiser already can be flexed mid, is already very strong top, and if it can be flexed jungle, that's going to be quite annoying from a competitive standpoint. And even in solo queue, you're not going to know where it's going to go. I don't think this is going to change too much though. Talon abilities now wound all monsters behind. So what this is actually going to do is this actually is going to allow Talon to clear Raptors quite well. And this is actually something for Diana. He's going to allow her to clear Raptors quite well. It's actually something I didn't even think about. So these were already champions that could do Raptors quite well already, but this is just going to help them definitely. And Zed Jungle. We haven't seen Zed Jungle for a very long time, so I'm actually unsure how this is going to affect his ability to jungle. Okay, and so here, these were some changes that were from 10.3. I actually wanted to talk about these because these were very, very big, and these next ones are very, very big. So, 10.3 So they increased the E damage, which was already quite a very strong ability anyway. So this is very good for Akali. So Akali is a champion where I actually think she's not as weak as people think. I just think people haven't adapted to the new form of Akali. Akali's ult is such a low cooldown now. Look at this. At level 3, it's 60 seconds. Level 2, 90 seconds. Level 1, it's only a 2-minute cooldown. And it actually does so much damage. And look at this, they've also increased the damage as well. So I think Akali is quite still a decently strong champion. You just got to be a little bit more careful. You're not going to be able to play as aggressive as you were before because before you could just R1 out and then R2 out as well. Now you can only basically R2 out because your R1 has to be targeted onto a champion. So it's definitely something to think about. I think this champion still, people were worried, oh my god, Akali's just dead forever. No, I just don't think that's the case. I think Akali's still strong. Not as strong, but, you know, people just are still trying to figure that out. Passive, I don't know about that one, and Yuumi. So Yuumi is just annoying here. Basically what they did here, they're trying to find a balance where Yuumi is, because Yuumi didn't just become a heal bot, so they actually liked Yuumi having quite a lot of poke threat in lane, but not so much that he can't even interact. So I guess they're just trying to find the balance between his identity in lane. Is he more of a poke bot or is he a heal? Is he a bit of both? I'm not sure. So I think they're just playing around with numbers there. It's not a big deal. So I think this is a fair buff. I think a lot of Exhaust wasn't really showed much love, especially around mid lane. I think Exhaust is quite an underrated summoner. People tend to take either TP or Ignite, so I don't think this is going to change the situations where you would take Ignite or TP. I just think it is quite a nice quality of life buff. I think it's a bit of a feels bad for some of those assassin mid laners, but again, it's got a lot of counterplay, so it's not the end of the world. Hail of Blades, maximum time between attacks 2 to 3 seconds, cooldown 4 seconds, out of combat 8 seconds. So attempting to broaden Hail of Blades' use cases since it's currently taken specifically by junglers who can chain their CC abilities with their basic attacks. So basically I only see Hail of Blades with like Vi and like Rek'Sai. But yeah, I don't think this changes mid lane all too much. Legend Runes. So this is interesting here. Alacrity, Tenacity, Bloodline minion kills per stack. So we're slowing down all Legend Rune stacking for minion farming versus champion killing since Bloodline specifically rises on stacking up. And since pros get more of their stacks from farming than kills compared to everyone else, this should be most impactful at that level of play. Yeah, I don't think this is really going to change solo queue that much because there's so many kills and solo queue so chaotic that this is not going to change that. It's more going to be impacting competitive play. Now this is massive. This is something I didn't even know about, and there's two things I wanted to talk about this because I got a comment on one of my recent videos about perfect timing. So one of my recent videos on Diana, I actually recommended taking perfect timing in the secondary tree, inspiration. And I want to talk about that a bit because there's a few things that I didn't even know about perfect timing. And then now that this buff is actually, or this nerf has actually happened, this is actually going to change whether or not I might not even take it anymore. So like I say here, currently a lot of players are taking perfect timing since it builds into core items with so many different champions, like Zhonya, like Diana builds Zhonya's, etc. Don't get us wrong, we're happy to see it, but there's much more satisfaction as a player and as a spectator when it's used aggressively rather than defensively. So instead of grants a commencing stopwatch at 10 minutes, now it's at 14 minutes. So this is massive. Like 10 minutes to 14 minutes, yes, takedowns reduces time by 2 minutes. Which is big. So, I mean, 2 kills means it's back to 10 minutes. On Diana, this is probably still okay. But the main reason I'm actually, like, I still think it's a good pickup on Diana. I'm just thinking whether Boots or not is better. Because, look at this. It no longer additionally reduces the cooldown of Guardian's Angel, Gargoyles, and Hourglass by 15%, which was a really big reason I actually love taking it on Twisted Fate and Diana. But now between these two things, this is making me be a little bit more skeptical. And then also the stopwatch cost is actually increased. But the other thing that was to think about, I didn't realize that if you look at the tooltip on perfect timing, it doesn't contribute the full 600 gold towards Zhonya's. It only contributes around 250 gold towards it. So I actually think overall, magical footwear is potentially a lot more gold efficient and actually better for Diana because you want to be saving that gold instead of buying boots. You want to be getting to your Nashus as fast as possible. So maybe, and even on TF, you don't really want to be spending your gold on boots. You want to be getting your Roa and your Ether Wisp as soon as possible. So I'm actually starting to think, and given that they've increased the stopwatch from 10 minutes to 14 minutes, I actually think taking Magical Footwear is just going to be better than taking Perfect Timing on mid lane. A lot of these matchups where, a lot of these times where I actually took Perfect Timing. So given all this information, yeah, this is actually quite a big change and something I need to think about. And so, yeah, I need to definitely reconsider taking Perfect Timing. And I think this was a good change, though, because supports just taking this and building gargoyles was so frustrating. Phase Rush. So this is a rune that I don't take often, but I want to talk a little bit about it as well. I think Phase Rush is a very good scaling rune, and the reason I don't take it too much in solo queue is because I feel like on champs that you would take it, like Syndra and Orianna, you can just take Area or Comet and punish the laner so much. Phase Rush is good on in lanes where you basically can't punish at all, and you just want to scale into mid to late game. So here they're attempting to broaden the rune since it's only been taken by range mages with extremely low cooldowns. So like they're talking probably about Cassiopeia and stuff like that. So maximum time between attacks is 4 seconds, which is good for Phase Rush. Movement speed is actually increased now from 25 to 40 to 30 to 50, which for melee champions, not for ranged champions. So they probably want more champions to take it. This is not really going to change mid lane too much. But yeah, that's I just wanted to clarify the reason why I don't take it too much on mages mid, unless I really need to. I take it on Cassio over Conqueror when I'm in a really bad matchup, say versus Syndra or something like that. Will no longer give the player Pressy Attack or Conqueror as their first rune. Interesting. I haven't played around too much with Omnistone. I don't really know its uses. I know it can be taken sometimes on Camille. I think this will actually hurt Camille mid if they take it, because now that you don't have Pressy Attack or Conqueror, that's going to affect Camille's level 1 all in. Unflinching now probably against... Oh, so there was a bug fix there. Immolate items. Once every 10 seconds, your next immobilizing ability deals and releases a fire nova. Oh, that's interesting. So this is going to be good for... Yeah, this is going to be really good for champs like Sejuani. Yeah, it's really good. Really good change for like a champ like Sejuani. Who else builds Sejuani? Even like, if you go tank Jarvan, I guess this is going to work. Once every 10 seconds, your next immobile... Yeah, so this is going to be really good for champs like, I guess, Jarvan, if they build... If they go tank Jarvan or Sejuani. Champs with CC, I guess. And then, same thing here. I don't know if this is going to change the times where you would or wouldn't build Sunfire Cape. I have to experiment around with this. I'm actually not too sure. Because it scales with bonus health, this is going to be a very good tank item for top. So this will be interesting to see how this actually affects Sejuani and things like that. And Sejuani's already on the edge. Little changes that help Sejuani's going to make her quite strong. What is this? We're making an adjustment to how slow resistance stacks on a champion to match tenacity stacking. Now slow resistance will stack multiplicatively. I don't even know how to say that word. Multiplicatively. Whatever. Instead of linearly. As example of the change, two 30% slow resist effects will now reduce slows by 51% rather than 60%. Okay, that is quite good because slows are getting quite ridiculous in the game. There's so many slows in the game that just didn't exist before, and I think this is very appropriate given the amount of slows in the game at the moment. And that's pretty much it. Man, this Trinity skin's trash as well. Who's going to buy these skins, man? Cool. So... yeah, let me know if this is something you guys want to see more of, this sort of patch rundown. I haven't really done anything like this before. So if you want to see this, if you want this to be more of a common thing, then feel free to let me know. Otherwise, if it's boring or it's useless, then I'll just stop doing it. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll keep pumping out more videos. Cheers.